Soon, I think. Meantime, the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, is going to be before the House Financial Services Committee to testify on the administration's financial regulatory reform proposals. Congressman Paul Kanjorski from Pennsylvania, a member of the House Financial Services Committee and chairman of the Capital Markets Subcommittee, joins us from Washington. Congressman, good to see you again.
Nice seeing you, Carl.
It's going to be interesting to hear the Secretary. We remember the President coming to Wall Street, I guess it was last week or the week before, and sort of wagging his finger saying, some of you guys have ignored the lessons of Lehman. Are the things that he is proposing, the watchdog agency for consumers, closing loopholes among the various regulatory agencies, are those being taken seriously on the Hill?
Oh, very seriously. We've been working on the President's proposals now for months, actually, and many of them are reduced to actual draft legislation. And we'll be starting a series of hearings for the next month, and then after that we'll be doing markup. So I would not be at all surprised if sometime around Thanksgiving until Christmas we'll actually be passing this legislation through the House.
Do you think the Consumer Protection Agency, I've seen you quoted as perhaps saying that is not, maybe it's not the smartest thing to go through with that?
Well, no, I think I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal to the effect that it's delaying other things, and it has had a cooling effect because it seems to be the focus and target of a lot of resentment. But just yesterday, Chairman Frank issued a paper on 7 issues that are making it much more attractive and less onerous. And I think there's a spirit now in the Congress and on the Hill to get this done and to try and get it done in a more bipartisan way. And I hope that's the way it all ends out, and I think it easily could.
What do you make of those who say, you know, the market's up 50% from the lows, banks are making record profits, bonuses are up, that it's a little bit late to leverage the fear that we all have had back in February and March?
No, we're not legislating from fear here. We're legislating from recognition that there are certain fundamental errors in our regulatory scheme. There are certain areas where the regulatory scheme has not kept up with the product, and that we've got to correct that, and that's what we're working on. It's a very comprehensive reform, some of it around the edges, some of it deep, and certainly looking at the SEC and to make that a more functional agency. But all in all, we're trying to equip regulatory reform so we can have another 75 years of uninterrupted prosperity.
What do you make of front page of the Journal this morning? Some of these remedies aren't being exactly seen the same way here and in Europe. Is there going to be a fight brewing over this in Pittsburgh this week?
I don't know. There are strong feelings. I spent 10 days in Europe just 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you there's a strong urge over there to work in a coordinated effort with the United States, because we recognize that between the European Union and the United States, about 80% of the world's securities are issued. So that if we can standardize and cooperate and coordinate our efforts in regulatory reform, it can set the standard for the world for the next century.
The administration wants the Fed to be the super cop. Chairman Dodd would prefer to see a bunch of agencies put together into a super agency. Which is going to win out?
Well, I don't know if either of them will actually win out. I think they're coming close to a different pattern. I would not put my money on the Fed, and it's going to be very difficult to combine all of the agencies. I think we will get a consolidation of some of the regulatory agencies, and I doubt whether the Fed's going to get the type of power in a agency that's required there. It's going to be more diffuse, because I think there's not a lack of trust on the Hill, but a lack of desire to put that much economic power and more strength in the presidency of the United States in one single appointed official.
Yeah. If the Fed's powers aren't broadened, is the Fed in danger of at least coming under more oversight? Is the Ron Paul push gaining momentum or losing momentum?
Well, the Ron Paul push would really go into full gear if, in fact, everyone held that the Fed's going to become the super regulator. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's a lot of feeling that probably a little more oversight has to be exercised, but it's a terribly important balance that we don't overweigh the Fed's independence by meddling by the Congress or by the American people in establishing a political weight for the regulatory system in the United States. That wouldn't be the right way to proceed, in my judgment.
Should Chairman Bear go to Treasury for more, for money, for credit, or should she take loans from the banks?
Well, that's up to Sheila Bair. She's been a great regulator. She's got a lot of support here on the Hill and very bipartisan support. I don't think it's going one or the other. It's what's more efficient, what's more effective, what can be done quickly. I think we have to allow her judgment and then look at it later on to see it's wrong. I don't think there could be any fundamental error there that would cause extraordinary problems one way or another. It's a matter of convenience.
Are you worried about how many bullets the FDIC has in the revolver if in fact, a huge number of banks start failing as we head into the end of the year?
Well, I think we certainly have to make sure that it's well equipped to handle any failures that occur. We know there's a possibility of 300 to 400 very weak banks, many of which probably will fail. But so far, they've been very successful in either merging those banks, taking them out over weekends, and reconstituting them. And now they need some support either from Treasury or from a bond sale to have the sufficient funds to accomplish that. That actually is a little problem compared to many of the problems we've handled over the last year.
Yeah, we've had some bankers on the program who say 1,000 banks will fail before this whole problem's done. Do you think that's a little apocryphal, or?
It's possible. You know, back in the S&L crisis, we lost 1,000 financial institutions. These things happen. They can happen. At this point, I think we've stabilized it more than I ever thought we would in a year. I think we've got a lot of optimistic projections out there of what could happen, and now we're going to stabilize the system as best we can to get the least failures possible. But failures are going to occur. You don't go through a financial crisis and not have failures.
Yeah, we get reminded of that every Friday night, it seems. Mr. Congressman, good to see you again. Come back.